Thank you, Josh. Hi, beautiful people. Oh, well, thank you. I didn't expect that. So I was trying to come up with something punchy to begin with to grab everyone's attention, but my wits failed me, so I'll go all in with the question. Now, by the show of hands, has anyone here ever wanted to change the world? Oh, wonderful. So it's not just me. Now, by the same show of hands, does anyone here actually know how to do it? There's less. Okay, I'm in the right place then. So we always hear that what we do, we start with ourselves. And I totally agree with that. But what I find that what we don't actually get given with that instruction to start with ourselves is the actual instruction, where to start, what to begin with, the first steps. So I'll try and contribute to the cause. But before I do, I'll start with a little story. So a few months back, I was visiting my mum, and whilst I was there, she fired up my laptop to log on to Zoom to check how to, just to remind herself rather, how to put people in breakout rooms. So that all fired up. She went to look for a button where she always knew to be, and the button is just not there. Because as it turns out, Zoom had reshuffled its shelves like the supermarkets do a little bit. So a couple more minutes later, after her looking, she couldn't find it, and she just flipped. She went, all of this is nonsense. She stood up and left the room in a strop. So it would be funny, you know, growing woman, respectable age woman, throwing a strop, if she wouldn't have left the room feeling helpless, feeling discouraged, her self-image have suffered, defeated even, I would say. As Josh mentioned, for about a decade I have been providing public service interpreting for courts, probation, social services, police and the likes. And when I started that job, I observed something that I just couldn't quite pin down, that there was a pattern, but I didn't know how to name it. I didn't know what it was. So a couple of years later, when I started my degree, and I came across something that to me was absolutely groundbreaking. Don't get me wrong, it was a long-standing paradigm, that thing that I learned, but I simply did not know about it then. And it goes like this. Our individual, and as extension collective worlds, are structured by the language that we use. They are created, they are shaped, they are structured by the language that we use every single day. And so I can illustrate. I'll ask you to humor me again. Has any one of you, again by a show of hands, ever said, "Oh, he pissed me off"? A few, yeah? Or, "Oh, she does my head in"? Yeah, me too. I still do. I fancy myself knowing better, but yet I still do. So if we think about it now, he pissed me off. Who's the active agent in that situation? And what if we rephrase it with, I feel pissed off by what he said? Who's the active agent in that situation? Thank you. So that is exactly my point. The rephrasing, the everyday language that we use. And it might sound very simple, but then we start rewiring our brain bit by bit. But I will yet come to that, because I have some unfinished stories. Now going back to what I observed in my job, when I learned that paradigm of what structures and constructs and creates a world, it all suddenly came together. I knew what it was that I have been observing over the years. Now, I did not keep a log, but if I had to make a hazardous guess, probably, I'd say about 80% of people that I came across and I helped communicate with the institutions I'd say about 80% of them, what they shared, what they had in common was the disempowering and disempowered language that they used to tell their stories. So now going back to my mum's story, and I'll remind you where we left her in case you forgot. She had stood up and stormed out of the room after having flipped at the screen saying, "Oh, all of this is nonsense." Well, me being me, I piped up going, "No, no, no, mother dear. All of this isn't nonsense. What it is that you and I, we don't know how to use it yet." So then we had a little verbal scuffle over me being petty over words yet again. But more importantly, a couple of minutes later, she came back. She approached me and she said, "Well, what do you suggest I do then?" So what we did, we Googled it, we found the instructions, we found where the damn button went, we tested them successfully, and then my mum went to bed, had a sound night's sleep, and she successfully carried out the lesson the next day, where she successfully put the people in the breakout rooms, and she both felt and appeared competent, and she felt happy and empowered, and her self-image had recovered. And we did that simply by rephrasing that exact situation, just using different words and taking the power back from she was a passive agent being acted upon by the situation. So if any of my little anecdotes or suggestions resonated with you, I would like to propose that you carry out a little experiment. And I call it the triple R. Nothing fancy, just so it's easier to remember. So the first R meaning rephrase, the second meaning rewire, and the third meaning reconstruct. So when you go about your business, daily life, for about a month, let's say, it's an arbitrary number, but why not? Try and catch yourself. Just try and observe the language that you speak when you react or respond to the situation, to any given situation, to the most trivial situation. And when you catch yourself using that disempowered and disempowering language, just take a moment, and that's all it has to take, the tiniest moment, just to rephrase it to where you become that active agent, where you take that power back. And as you continue for that month, you will notice that it will become easier and easier. It will become automatic slowly. It will require less effort, so that you will be rewiring yourself. Because neuroplasticity has been a fact now for a quarter of a century. And as you continue rewiring yourself, you probably won't even notice that you have actually reconstructed your world, where you have the power over the situations, not those of the past that made you feel a certain way, but those of the future from that moment onwards. Because when you phrase things in the way where you are actually that active agent, more opportunities open up for you of the possible actions you can take, the actions that are available for you, than if you phrase it in a way where you allow the situation act upon you. And I now would like to add the fourth R. I just said triple R, not quadruple, because it sounded better. So the fourth R is ripple. And that's where the changing of the world comes in. So imagine now the situations where in every situation you have the power, rather than somebody else or something else has the power over you. Where you can see the prospects of getting out of that situation, because yet again, I'll repeat myself, you, the active agent in it. How will your relationship will change with the world? How much more positive a place the world will be, how many or more opportunities there will be for you in your life, because you now see them, not because they weren't there before. So relationships with your loved ones, with your colleagues, in your social circles, those will change. And that ripple will continue on as that, through the relationships, through the example, and that is how you change the world. So last time I delivered this talk, I invited people to conduct this experiment. But times have changed and the world has gone even crazier place, as we know. So I stand here in front of you today and I urge you to experiment. I invite you to initiate the change you seek. Thank you. Thank you.